Welcome to Lawyers Who Care, the video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And on each episode, we will meet a new lawyer and they will share stories of when they went beyond legal counsel for the benefit of their client. My name is Andrew Samalin. I'm the principal of Samalin Wealth, a nationally recognized wealth management firm for lawyers, their firms, and their clients. And let's applaud Lawyers Who Care and learn from them. Today, my guest is Michele Procino-Wells of Procino-Wells and Woodland in Delaware. Michele's firm practices in estate planning, elder law, and trust and estate administration. Welcome, Michele.
Thank you so much, Andy, for having me.
So, Michele, tell us what brought you to the law.
So gosh, it's interesting. When I was in high school, I just decided I wanted to be a lawyer. No lawyers in my family. Actually, no one in my family had even gone to college at that point. But I just decided that I wanted to have a meaningful career. I wanted to be able to support myself as a female. And I made up my mind I was going to law school. And that's what I did.
And how did you, through all of the the myriad of types of law that you could practice, how did you land on yours?
Yeah. So when I started law school, it was interesting. I thought, very traditional, I'm going to be a criminal lawyer. I'm going to be this, that, or the other. And it was interesting because my classes in law school, my property class, my first wills and trusts class, my income tax class, like those were all the classes that I really enjoyed. And I hated all the litigation stuff. So I was like, okay, I am definitely meant to be a transactional lawyer. And then I was very fortunate to be hired at a firm. I started as an intern during the summers and then was hired as an associate where they wanted me to work in their trust and estates department. And they actually helped me get an advanced law degree in taxation and estate planning. So I just sort of went down that path. And I think it spoke to me because family has always been really important to me. And what I do is all about working with families.
So you're on this path and you started off at a large firm, or did you, start
sort of a medium-sized, medium-sized firm, about 25 lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
And then went to work with another attorney. We had kind of a small practice and then eventually branched out on my own. And then that has evolved into the firm that I have now with my partner, Amber Woodland.
Got it. And you had mentioned as we were chatting before this started that you have an interesting process that you wanted to talk about. Do you want to share that process or the story with us?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first, I kind of wanted to share sort of how our practice has evolved. I talked about all the transactional stuff. So my practice early on started with estate planning, wills, trusts, powers of attorney, healthcare directives, did a lot of that kind of work, did some business planning, did, real estate settlements. And then over time, that practice really evolved and, we really started, trying to figure out, okay, what kind of needs are there in our particular community that are unmet? And I want to share, because it was such a pivotal time in my career. I've been very fortunate and been on a local hospital board for a lot of years. And gosh, probably about 15 years ago, I was sitting in a presentation where the hospital had some consultants come in and they were looking at, population growth in our area, the expected demographics. And, in Southern Delaware, lots of people come here to retire because we've got really cheap taxes and we've got the beach and rural areas. And so these consultants showed us that over time, the 65 and over population was going to grow dramatically. But yet the net worth of people that live in our area, we don't have a ton of super wealthy people. So it's kind of that like upper middle class. And it made me realize that those people need, basic estate plan, but they also needed asset protection planning for long-term care. In our area, we're seeing nursing homes charging about $15,000 a month. And, for people that have some savings, but not, they're not super wealthy, it doesn't take long for people to blow through a tremendous amount of money. And so that day I came back to the office. Amber, my partner now, she was fresh out of law school at the time. I was like, Amber, this is what we need to do. This is what we really need to focus our practice on moving forward. And I was like, these are my people. I grew up in a middle class, blue collar family. My one set of grandparents were Italian immigrants. My other set of grandparents were farmers. And so we recognized this need in our community for people to be able to preserve, and protect the assets that they've worked so hard to accumulate. And so those are obviously the most feel-good stories that we have with our practice.
And tell us what that looks like. How does
Sure.
how does the asset protection planning manifest itself? Is it in a
Yeah.
Structures of documents, insurance? What does that all look like?
I mean, every client is different, but when I was preparing for today, there's one client story, and this is from years ago, that really kind of stands out to me. And there was actually a man came to me. He was a friend of our family, and they had in their family kind of a long-standing sort of family lawyer that had done their wills and all of that. His mom was kind of very ill at the time, and they were looking to think that she was going to need long-term care, but they had assets. She had, some savings. They owned, and in particular, they owned a beach house down in the Outer Banks that they really wanted to protect. And so they went to their kind of family lawyer, and he said, "Oh, you guys have too much money. There's nothing that she can do. You're just going to have to privately pay for care. Hopefully you won't have to sell the beach house," which meant hopefully she'll pass away before you have to spend that much money. And, he walked away from that saying, "Well, gosh, there's nothing we can do. We're just going to have to keep mom home. We're going to have to figure out how to care for her." So thank goodness he came to me for a second opinion. And what that first attorney totally missed was that one of his siblings actually had been deemed disabled, was receiving Social Security disability benefits, and there's a planning opportunity there. And missed that mom's IRA could be liquidated in a tax-advantaged way, and missed all of these things. And so there was, in fact, planning that family could do. And we were able to shelter the beach house. We were able to shelter about 60% of her other assets that she owned. We were able to accomplish Medicaid eligibility for her. She was then able to get the care that she really needed. She really needed to be in a facility, but they were afraid to place her because they thought they would lose everything. And mom lived for several years, after we did the planning, and that family was so grateful to us. She has since passed away, and now I've done estate planning for 2 of the 3 sons, and they still have the family beach house. They're planning to leave it to their children. And, had they not come to me, chances are that house would have ended up being sold and that money spent down for mom's care, because she did live for a considerable amount of time, after we did the planning. So in those kinds of cases where we can swoop in and we can apply, state and federal laws that exist to allow people to shelter assets. So mom got the care that she needed, which is so important, and they were able to shelter assets. So it was just a tremendous win. We had to be really creative with some of it because there had been some prior gifting, and so we really love all the intricacies of that. But I've had so many of those kinds of situations over the years, that I just love being able to help families protect their family legacy.
So I guess, Michele, before we wrap up, if you could leave our listeners with one takeaway, what would that be?
I think the biggest thing is that anyone with planning can become eligible for long-term care benefits. We see so many people that think they have too much, that, oh, there's no way we'd ever be eligible for benefits. With proper planning, just about anybody. Now, if someone is incredibly wealthy and they can afford care at home 24 hours a day, that's a different story, obviously. But I see lots of, married couples where there's a caregiver spouse who is, it's a 24-hour day job, but they're like, but we've got money in the bank. There's no way we'd be eligible. With planning, people can become eligible. They can get the care they need and protect assets.
Perfect. By the way, I'd like to thank my guest, Michele Procino-Wells of Procino-Wells in Woodland. Michele, can you provide your or our audience with the contact information?
Sure, absolutely. Best way is really to check us out is our website, which is pwwlaw.com. Or you're also welcome to call our office. Our number is 302-628-4140.
Wonderful. This has been the Lawyers Who Care video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And Michele's a perfect example. If you're an attorney or know one who goes above and beyond, feel free to reach out to us, 914-666-6600. Number again, 914-666-6600. Michele, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Andy.